Hi everyone! For this video, let's try to graph linear inequalities in two variables, just like this one, or this one. Now, to graph these inequalities, we need the following guides. First is the type of line. So the type of line can be a dotted line or a solid line on the graph, and it depends on what inequality symbols was used. So if you use either a greater than or a less than on the graph, you should use a dotted line. If you use the symbols greater than or equal to or less than or equal to on the graph, you should use a solid line. So take note of the type of line and the corresponding inequality symbol. Aside from the type of line, we also need to consider shading. All right. So we will shade above the line, everything above the line, if we use this symbol. It's either a greater than or equal to, as long as it's a greater than. We shade above the line. Or we shade below the line when we use the symbols, the less than or equal to symbols. So we need to combine these two, the shading and the type of line. Now, the inequalities, linear inequalities that I'm going to show here in the examples will be only shown in the slope-intercept form. Okay, so take note of that. Let's now go to example 1. All right, our first example we have here, y is greater than negative 2x minus 8. So this inequality, we're going to graph it. Now, to graph this inequality, we first draw the the line. We first graph the line. So as you can see in this equation, it's given in a slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So this is our mx and this is our b. So therefore, we have our slope. Our slope is negative 2. So that's our slope. Remember, to graph a line, we need m and b. So our m is negative 2. And then we just make it over 1 for us to know the run. Okay, so this is our rise, and this is our run. And our b is negative 8. Take note, the negative in front must be included. So our y-intercept is negative b. Okay, so our step 1 is to know m and b so that we can graph the line. So we now graph the line using m and b. So how do we graph this line? So first, we go to the y-intercept in the Cartesian plane. Okay, remember our b is negative 8, so we go to negative 8. All right, so go to negative 8, and then from there we use our slope. It says negative 2 down, this is our rise, negative 2 down, and then 1 to the right. So we go 1, 2, and then to the right. So that's a graph, that's the line. And then in an inequality, you should determine if this will be a dotted or a solid line. Okay, by clicking the change line, your line will change to either dotted or solid line. So as you can see, we were using a greater than, and from our guide earlier, a greater than symbol means a dotted line. So we have this dotted line. Okay, now another is the shading. So again, we have the guide. This symbol is a greater than, so we have to do our shading, and it must be above the line. So this kind of shading there, that's below the line, and this shading here is above the line. Just click this to change the shading. So because it's a greater than, we have to shade above the line. So that will be the graph of our inequality. Okay. Now, in this inequality, see the shaded portion. Any point on the shaded portion is called a solution. For example, we have there 3, let's say 3, negative 3 is here. It's a solution. Any point that you find in here is a solution. Let's say negative 2, 5, that's another solution. Okay. Any point outside of this shaded portion, just like here, is not a solution. As well as any point on the dotted line. Any point on the dotted line is not a solution. But if you have a solid line, any point on the solid line is a solution. Okay, so that is knowing solutions. Now, that's the graph. Let's now submit. All right, got it right. All right, our second example is y is less than or equal to 1/3 x plus 1. So our inequality is in a slope-intercept form, mx. So from there, our m is 1/3. So our m is 1/3. So this is our rise. It means go up 1, and this is our run. Go to the right 3 units. All right, and our b is a plus 1, so positive 1. So first, we draw the line starting with the B. Our B is 1, so we go to the y-intercept. Y-intercept is positive 1, so we click on the y-intercept. And then from there, we use our slope to get a new point. 1/3 slope means 1 up and 3 down. I mean 3 right. So 1 up and 3, 1, 2, 3 right. All right, 1 up and 3 right. Now you have the line. You have to decide if this is a solid or a dotted line. From the guide that we have, less than or equal to is a solid line. Okay, solid line. And then after the line, we now decide the shading. If it's above, this is above, or this is below. Okay. Now you look at the symbol. It's less than or equal to. Based on the guide, it must be below the line. So that will be the graph. Now, if you want to know the solution, any point on the solid on the shaded part is a solution. For example, you can have 5, -1, -2, -4, any point from here, as well as any point on this line is also a solution because it's a dotted line. I mean, it's a solid line. Any point on the solid line is a solution. While any point outside of the solid and the shaded part, like any point here, like -7, 8, is not a solution. Okay. So that's the graph of this inequality. All right.